And I'm so excited for all of you to be here because it's going to be an enlightening experience, not only for the investment climate panel, but also for high-end real estate and everything else that you will learn about investing into Ethiopia. I'd like to next introduce Christoph Evard, who will moderate the panel for the investment climate panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Naya. Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's session on the Ethiopian Investment Forum. My name is Christoph Evard. I'm a partner at Kibo Capital Partners. And today's session, with its straightforward title, is essentially about risk and opportunity. It's an important topic and also a very timely one. As you well know, the pandemic has increased volatility and risk levels across the world and also, of course, across this Ethiopian region, impacting investments and portfolio alike, and also, as we know, through other macroeconomic factors that the ambassador already talked about. So today I'm pleased to introduce to you our distinguished panelists. And I must say, it's hard to find a better group of people to discuss this topic. We have Ethiopian and international investors across asset classes, supporting startups and established businesses, industry and project finance. The first panelist I would like to introduce is Philippe Vogeleer. He is Vodafone's Global Head of Business Development, which means his role consists basically in traveling to 100+ countries where Vodafone operates and in building alliances and serving as a special envoy. As most of you will know, Vodafone recently won a license to start operating telecom services in Ethiopia after, I believe, a 2-year-long competitive race. He's based in London. And I'm told that in addition to this introduction, we also have a quick video to show on Vodafone's recent telco license. But hey, if you invest $8 billion in Ethiopia, you get a 30-second video on the Ethiopian Investment Forum. Here you go.
Today is an important milestone in the history of our beloved country, Ethiopia.
Wonderful. So thank you for joining, Philippe. Next up is Greg Metro. He's a managing director at Cerberus Frontier. Many will know Cerberus Capital Management. It's one of, well, the global leading investment houses with more than 42 billion, I believe, assets under management across regions and asset classes. And in 2018, Cerberus Frontier, the platform, acquired a private equity investor called SGI Frontier Capital, which itself had raised Ethiopia's first private equity fund. And Greg was and is running this amongst many other things. And he lived in Addis and oversaw many investments in the country. Thank you for joining, Greg.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Next on my list, of course, is Addis Alemayehou. He is chairman of Kazana Group, which has invested in over, I believe, 20 Ethiopian companies. In addition to that, you've done, I don't know how many things. You co-founded a private TV station, Kana TV. You founded 251 Communication, which I believe today is one of Ethiopia's leading PR and communication firms. And we only have 45 minutes, so I need to stop my introduction of you here, Addis. But welcome and great having you.
Thank you so much. Great being here.
Wonderful. And last but certainly not least, Chef Yohanis. Yohanis is not only one of Ethiopia's most influential chefs, he's also an entrepreneur par excellence. He opened and runs Asabet restaurant, which is, as some of you will know, Addis Abeba's premier seafood restaurant. And through his company, CY Group, he ventured into related business such as Spice Products Company and other things. Yohanis, I believe most of you will know you in your popular TV shows, and the frequent flyers among us will definitely truly appreciate your creating dishes for Ethiopian Airlines Cloud9.
Thank you for having me.
Excellent. So This panel could last for a day, but we only have 45 minutes. So apologies already if I need to cut short on some of the answers. And to the audience, there's a Q&A button at the bottom for any questions. If we have time, I'll take a couple of questions for the panel at the end. So please shoot over your questions and hopefully we have time to address them. So let's get started. Addis, if okay, and to set the scene, I start with you. I think the current macroeconomic situation is on every investor's mind. You yourself, through your group and otherwise, are heavily invested in the country and you operate in many different industries. How do you see the current environment and how is it affecting your operations?
I mean, you know, it's the current environment in regards to doing business in Ethiopia, honestly, is challenging in terms of the forex issue and obviously the political and security issue that's the country is currently facing. We can't avoid that issue as a business. But in all honesty, in 20 years of doing business in Ethiopia, we've seen more positive policy and regulatory changes and sort of the business environment of operating in Ethiopia than ever before. We've actually had to hire 2 extra people just to keep up with the amount of policies and regulations that are coming out from the various ministries on a regular basis, whether it's the National Bank, the Ministry of Finance, or other entities. For me, I look at it from a point of view of when I first got here in 2000, I think 2001, and where we are today. Just the fact that, you know, a couple of months ago, something unheard of, we have a second national telecom operator. For the first time, people have a choice. We're going to see both speed and cost coming down. That's going to unleash a huge digital revolution in the country. I see you, Philippe, raising your thumb. You're right. I mean, it's going to transform the country like it's never before. The mobile money aspect of it, that the Prime Minister and I think the Ethiopian Telecom Authority has issued, that in itself is also going to transform the economy. Seeing new opportunities in logistics and other sectors. So for us, in all honesty, we've invested more in the last 2 years than we have in the last 20. So we're very excited about the opportunity. We're very excited about what the future holds for the country. You know, at the end of the day, I'm an optimist, and anybody that knows me and has worked with me, Greg will also comment. We worked over the years together. I've always been an optimist on this country, and I'm doubling down in Ethiopia at the moment. So that's, you know, let me stop at that.
Doubling down in Ethiopia, I like it. Thank you, Addis. Greg, do you agree? I mean, you run for a long time Ethiopia's first private equity fund, and now you have an even wider frontier markets angle with Cerberus. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so we're used to difficult markets, and our history is investing in markets like Ethiopia, Mongolia, even North Korea at one stage. And last year we even looked at investment in Central Asia, we've got long history in Ethiopia. I was on the ground for 4 years. I've been active investing in Ethiopia for 7 years, and the environment is challenging. It's definitely challenging. As Addis said, we've currently got 8 investments still active, and you've got inflation issues, you've got the shortage of foreign currency, logistics problems because of conflict in the north and a couple other areas. But with that said, I agree with Addis that the government is making positive changes. There's definitely 3 steps forward, 1 step backwards at times, but overall, the movement is in the right direction, and we see that with our investments. So we were able to exit one of our investments recently, which was a nice exit, and we were able to do that and able to get the foreign exchange that we needed. As a foreign investor, you're very focused on, okay, can I get the dollars? And it is very hard, but we were able to get them and able to exit our investments successfully. So even though you have all these challenges, if you can operate in this environment and operate in Ethiopia, there is very attractive returns to be had. And that's really how I'd summarize it, is that some of our companies now, because we've worked so hard, we've been on the ground for so long, we're really starting to see the fruits of our labor. And our biscuit business, for example, just had a record 2 months, and this is with all of the challenges I mentioned. And it's a great turnaround story, and one where for 2 years we've been working on the brand, working on improving operations, and we're able to do that in this challenging environment. So yeah, we're looking at investments, and we're ready to invest more capital.
Fantastic. Wow, two great takeaways. One is that bringing US dollars of a successful exit out of the country, which is wonderful, and it's a track record that we need in Ethiopia. And I think the other point is risk, which is perceived risk versus real risk. And I think if we have time later in the forum, I'd love to come back to that as well. But moving on, Philippe, and sticking to the macroeconomic bit. I mean, macro is of course central to Vodafone's investment decision, and of course, because your $8 billion investment is literally going to affect the livelihood, the lives, the businesses of all Ethiopians. I mean, my God, incredible. So the question to you has two parts. The first one is the macro bit, but then also how do you think of your investment? How will it change the Ethiopian investment climate as an enabler? I think Addis already mentioned the M-Pesa or mobile money and all of this, but also on a more fundamental level. Over to you.
Thank you. I hope you can hear me well. I'd like first to thank the ambassador for his kind words, and of course Addis for his wonderful words, because yes, we are going to change everything, and that's great. Stepping back just a minute, maybe to present to the audience just a tad about what we do. I'd like to state that, you know, telecoms have moved from relatively direct services years ago to what we call purpose services. So basically, we have become officially a big enabler to many things. The first time we approached Ethiopia was probably, well, really in 2015, where we sensed that there was change to come. And then in 2019, we were called by the government for a meeting to present what they wanted to do. And what we saw was two big things. One is a big eagerness to change things for the better, for the benefit of the population. And that's the macroeconomic plans that have been mentioned. That was really wonderful because you had a clear strategy from day one. And then the other part that you could see is, you know, that it was enormous. All things being equal, this is 3.5 times the size of Germany. It's a very big country. So if you say that you want to be an enabler for the entire population, regardless of where they are, you realize very fast that you're not going to do that easily as you would do a smaller market. Which is why when the government decided to launch a competition, we decided to form a very large consortium. Bringing together British, South African, Kenyan, Japanese, and American interests to say, oh, you know, wouldn't we be stronger operating that way? And well, the rest is a bit history. You've seen that short video that was there, which is a summary of the day we won, which is essentially, look, there were 12 companies at the beginning, then 8, then 4, then 2, then us. Of course, being at the receiving end of the win is great, you know. So you're not going to hear us saying anything negative. We're delighted to have won. We've spent the last 3 months probably, you know, doing all the admin logistics. You need to order the equipment, you need to firm up your shareholder pacts, you need to start taking the team. Very delighted to announce we will actually make that public this week, that the senior management team is now in place. You know, we're starting to recruit at high speed people to fill in the mega positions, because again, you know, people, interestingly enough, focus on the money of the investment that we're bringing, and I understand why. It's huge money. That being said, to my eyes, that's not really the key. The key here is, as Addis mentioned, is we're going to build a network that is a combo between a fantastic terrestrial mobile, if you want, something on the ground, plus an overlay of low orbit satellite services once they are available. The entire thing combined is going to bring an incredible coverage in high-speed data to the whole of the country, which compared to today's, I think that the penetration is something around 6 or 7% of top-tier data, is going to make a massive difference. But then the key point is, again, to understand that it's not a massive difference in terms of downloading YouTube videos. The way we built our business plan is based on all the verticals where we can make a difference. So we're talking agriculture, we're talking education, we're talking medical, we're talking, you know, all these verticals where you have will see themselves having opportunities that they never had before. We think that this license will generate between 1 and 1.5 million jobs in the country in the next few years. So again, you know, take those numbers into it. The investment is, of course, very important. It's massive. It's shared by different big parties. So, you know, the money is there and it's going to be delivered. But that's not the real point. The real point is that you can really, really effect massive change on the ground in all of these verticals, starting with the schools, then the universities, recruiting loads of students, which is what we usually do so that we can train them immediately to distribute the services everywhere. And then you can go into other types of services like DFS, like digital financial services, etc. So it's going to be a grand journey. We are hyper excited, as you can imagine. No, it's not going to be simple. We never thought it would, you know, by definition, handling a country that is that massive cannot be simple. But at the same time, yeah, we have the team, we have the will, we have the money, that helps. So it's going to be grand. I hope I've answered the two questions in one go. Let me know if I haven't.
You have, well, there are many more questions to follow this one, but thanks, we certainly have, and great to hear. And indeed, I think we've also seen from other countries when these type of changes happen in the infrastructure of a country, it truly is an enabler and a change in the fundamentals of an entire economy. So thank you, Philippe. Having looked at the macro, maybe moving from the macro more to the operations, Yohanis, you started several businesses in the past few years through good times and more difficult macroeconomic times. How would you describe the challenges and opportunities in operating a business in Ethiopia? And I think, Yohanis, you are on mute.
Sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, first of all, for having me here. The last few years have been quite challenging, I think, for everyone. But I think it's also given the opportunity to show innovation can actually have an impact right now in the current crisis, and we're seeing this through my business as well. Invested in the past couple of months, started one restaurant called Addis. We launched our restaurant last year, end of last year, and this year we're going to launch this month we're going to launch 2 butcheries and a couple of other spots by beginning of January 2022. So I think it's a great time to take risks. There is a return to it. And as Philippe and Addis and everyone is mentioning, I think having data, very fast data will impact, because we're seeing it currently in our business. We rely especially on social media, especially Instagram being where our target is. The middle class showing more interest on Telegram and TikTok. So that is a great ground to take risk right now, I believe, and I hope everyone will come invest.
Excellent, thank you. Maybe staying on the notion of operations, and Addis, back to you a question. I mean, you've been here investing at least the last 20 years, right? And how has the situation changed for you operationally, right? Looking at the risk factors, looking a bit at mitigation strategies across the industries, how would you see, how would you describe it? What would you recommend to some of our listeners? Because remember, it's an investment forum, and most of the people attending have an interest in or potentially investing in Ethiopia. So any insight would be appreciated.
And for me, it's data. The data in the sense, not the kind that Philippe and Vodafone sell, but data in terms of information and in terms of understanding the market. There's a couple of numbers I want to throw at people. I think Ethiopia is exciting for a number of reasons. One is the sheer number of people that you find, consumers. So you're looking at 110 million people. The average age in Ethiopia, I think, give or take, is about 18 years old. So you can imagine whatever you produce, somebody's going to consume it for the next 50 years. I'm the last guy you want to sell to because I'm on my way out. But I mean, there's a huge market for anything, any product or service that you're looking at coming back with. But the third and key sort of advice that I give a lot of investors is respect the local, culture, local norms, local insights. You cannot come and cut and paste what you've learned in South Africa or Kenya or Australia, whatever. There's an Ethiopian way of doing things. There's an Ethiopian way of selling to Ethiopians. And whether you're Ethiopian or not, like for myself, I mean, I speak the language and I look like one, but I didn't leave here until I was, I left here when I was 9, so I had to come back and understand the essence of what people are looking for. Essentially, we're all human beings at the end of the day. Everybody wants the same things that all human beings want, but there's a certain way that Ethiopians want to be sold to. The demand for anything is ridiculous. I mean, your biggest challenge in Ethiopia is getting that product or service to the table, or as Greg said, to the consumer. There's huge untapped demand for almost anything, right? Getting it to the consumer is where the challenge is. The logistics issue, finding the right people to help you execute, some of the bureaucracy and the financial constraints, which I believe probably in the next year or two, I wholeheartedly believe that the banking sector will be the next one to open up after the telecom, because I mean that's the only sector that's left, and that will unleash another revolution, in terms of business and being able to access a new, the fact that we're about to set up a stock exchange for the first time, and Philippe's company will probably be the first ones to list. Philippe, do I get 2% or 3%? Let me just put my bid in right now. But it's gonna be a huge opportunity. There's literally the last country on earth with this kind of opportunity, right? And what I tell investors all the time is, if it was easy, everybody would be here. And it's not easy. That's the reality. Even with $8 billion, it's not easy. Philippe said it. It's going to be a challenge getting up and running. But once you do, this is a beautiful market to be in. I mean, it's like I said, I'm doubling down. So if anybody's got funds to invest in my fund, come on, I'm ready. Greg,
Let's talk.
Excellent.
We need
I
a
think that is
discount. We need a discount though.
Very good. No, thanks, Addis. And I must say, some of the stuff really resonates with me. I mean, we're investing across Sub-Saharan Africa, and what you say with the local context and being on the ground in a unique environment, it's here. It's also in other markets, right? It's not sitting in New York and expanding to Washington. It's very different. You have to be on the ground. The opportunity is there. It's all about execution, isn't it? And you can't do that if you don't have a strong network and strong operating skills on the ground. I must say, I fully agree with that. And the other one you mentioned is size. I mean, I don't know how many of you have seen this map of Africa with, I don't know, China in it and America in it, and India in it, and so on. And I think the next one I see, I'll rip apart because it's so misleading. Right? Africa is 54 countries. If you want to expand, if you're in India, you want to expand from Mumbai to Delhi, it's hard enough. If you want to expand from Nairobi to Dar es Salaam, it's terrible. It's a different system, it's a different currency, it's everything is different. So scale, or the lack thereof, in most African markets is a key impediment to growth. And if you look at it from a private equity financial investor basis, the returns and the lack of returns, or what is what is hindering returns, it's really scalability. And there, Ethiopia is one of the few countries on the entire continent that has the scale with the sheer power of the people behind you. Of course, GDP per capita is still low. Obviously, it's been growing very fast. It's of course, the last year and a half hasn't been great. But if you look at all the other countries, I mean, you look at Kenya, it's what, at 1,800 or 2,000 GDP per capita, 3 times of its neighbors, and I think yeah, almost more than double Ethiopia. So I think there's a clear growth trajectory, and you have the scalability here, which is an enormous advantage. So thanks for that. Maybe Philippe, coming on that subject. So the first part is, you know, what you're enabling, but also looking at you as an operator, right? Looking at competition. And I think Addis did not in one word mention competition, because it's, I think, if you execute, you will be successful if you execute well. How does it work for you? I mean, you have one big competitor, of course. You'll be 2 players. How worried are you about other people coming in for your business model?
Simple answer, not at all. Or to be more specific, it's not a question of fear. We have a very clear position everywhere around the world that a market with 3 players is always a better market. The reason for that is that 3 players creates a dynamic where operators can work together well. If you have only 2, well, essentially, let's say that they don't go along well, you can have a dynamic that gets stuck. If you have 3, however, then you end up having something that is very positive. So we've been very, very clear with the government, when they had to decide whether they would grant 2 new licenses in one go, or if they would do it in sequence. We've been very, very clear that whatever they would decide, we would help. And so, I wish to make that clear again here, which is, in reality, people can check, don't judge people on what I say, judge people on what they do. In the case of our company, it's very simple. If we have an opportunity to cooperate with third parties, we do. Why do we do that? Because it goes faster. It's very simple. There are so many things you want to transform. One of our partners is specialized into transforming full ecosystems. They've already made a list of 200 types of companies that could be modified as a result of us coming. So essentially, there is so much to do that it's pointless to be fearful about others coming to take a stake and help. In reality, if they do, so if the incumbent operator wants to cooperate, we would be delighted to do that. If a new entrant comes, we will be delighted to work with them as well. Because again, massive country. I mean, to use your image of the map of Africa, well, just take Ethiopia and put 3 times and a half Germany. It's that's 4 times the UK, including Northern Ireland. It's enormous. So the point is, we don't see any reason to fear that. It's completely up to the authorities to decide at what pace they want to bring the third operator. We know that they are working on it. If we are being asked for support on that, we will happily give it. Because again, we will learn quite a lot of things as a result of doing what we do. There is no reason why the new entrant should not benefit from what we will learn. So again, my number is available, and so is the one of our managing director in Ethiopia. And again, we'd be delighted to talk with third parties interested, because that's what we do.
Fantastic. Thank you, Philippe. And maybe a note to the audience: at the very end of the forum, we'll have a thank you slide, and it will have the contact details of all the panelists of the forum. So for you to get in touch directly with them, should you wish. Thank you, Philippe. So maybe one more question on that, and also then looking forward, Greg, for you. The issue of perceived risk versus real risk that was talked about in the beginning. I mean, again, you have this unique view of having lived in Ethiopia, operating in Ethiopia, but also having a frontier market view across the globe, really. How do you see the perceived risk versus the real risk, and any arbitrage opportunities as a first one, and then looking forward, looking at investment opportunities. And I'm sure a lot of our listeners today who are considering investing, who would like to invest, who maybe think there is opportunity for me. What would you tell them, and what industries, what areas would you see over the next, let's say, 2 to 3 years as good investment opportunities?
Yeah, so Christoph, that's something we talk about all the time internally, is perceived versus actual risk. And a lot of the panelists have mentioned the high level risk of lack of forex and inflation, logistics challenges, conflicts in the country. And so the casual investor will see that and will immediately back off and think, okay, the risk level is too high. It's not something I'm comfortable with. But if you peel the layers, like Addis has mentioned and Philippe has done, you see all the positive macro and demographic characteristics of the country that start to make some interesting investment opportunities. So the risk is definitely higher. I don't think it's as high as the casual foreign investor would believe they are, because once you do establish on the ground presence, you learn, as Addis recommended, local culture, how to operate, you can do quite well. And because of generally the lack of competition, unlike Philippe, I think we don't like competition that much with our businesses. We like to have a fairly good competitive moat, which is one of the recommendations I'd make to listeners, that if you do invest in a business, try to find ones that do have strong competitive moats and can withstand competition, which I know Vodafone will be able to do. But as for sectors, there are pockets that can do quite well in this environment. So the currency is a big challenge if you're investing in US dollars. So you need to find industries that can withstand that. So the obvious one is anything that exports. We've got an investment in an agricultural export company that's doing better than ever. And it does very well in a depreciating currency environment. I'd say businesses that are focused on the domestic market, that tap the unlimited demand that Addis mentioned, but require very little forex because the forex is a big challenge. And greenfields, another one where you have untapped opportunities, and manufacturing for any food products would be interesting. And finally, industries that are dollarized, that might be local but are dollarized. And the one in mind that we've invested in and that we like a lot is real estate, where even with the currency depreciating, you've got investors in Ethiopia that up to now don't have really many options other than bank account or real estate. And so real estate, there is a lot of demand, because as the currency depreciates, you don't want your money in a bank account. Stock market's not set up yet. It's difficult to invest out of the country, and real estate is one of the attractive areas, and that we've seen the prices are increasing as much as the currency's depreciating.
Yeah, thanks. That would have been my follow-on question for individual investors who are looking to place some money in the country, who may not be institutions and may not have their own company to expand here. I think you answered that question, right? There is not that much because there's no stock exchange. So what would it be? It would be real estate, I assume.
Yeah, I mean, that was our premise, and I think it's proving to be the case. Christoph, Rockstone is doing quite well so far, and we've got plans for a second project and investing more capital, because the investment thesis we had 3 years ago is true, and there's a lot of opportunity to build higher quality real estate, residential, commercial buildings in the country. And really, I wouldn't want to keep my money in a bank account or under my mattress. There's not many other options. I think the stock market will be an interesting one once that's up and running. You can invest privately in banks and a few other sectors and shares that are quote unquote public. But real estate is probably the most liquid outside of a bank account.
Yeah, thanks. Wonderful. Maybe a final question on that also, Johannes, from your perspective. Investment opportunities. I know you're growing. I know you're constantly looking. What do you see in the market?
Currently, we're exploring actually the fish market. That's the first entry point that we decided to take because it's a unique value proposition. We tend to change to go to Doro, which is chicken, Doro bait, as atakelt bait, which would be vegetables, beef, and coffee. From what we're seeing in our first experience in this business is that the fish industry has not been untapped. We have been able to identify more than 200 varieties of fish locally, among which 57 edible, but only 3 are consumed in Addis. Some of the reason we have identified, especially with our partner supplier, is the lack of quality of the products. Fish products available at supermarkets have decreased 30 by 35 times within the last 5-6 years, just with one shop as an example. So we're seeing that a lot of products have been neglected, and that food scarcity depends. It's also one of the reasons that we're not exploring the different assets, producers that we have locally. So I think support and logistics, expanding in fish farming, especially knowing that their byproducts can be also used as feed for other animals, could benefit the overall population, both on a nutritional level, but also on a quantity level. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Johannes. Well, thank you, gentlemen. I think let's go. We have only a few minutes left, maybe one question on the Q&A. I've been looking through it during our speech. There's a few questions on government and government support, and it's unfortunately not in this panel, but we'll be happy to forward those to the ambassador and get a response from him. I'm seeing also, maybe Johannes, if I can stay with you for this, I'm seeing also actually a number of questions around what I would call red tape and just regulation in general, whether that's real estate law, management services, taxes, security, licenses, all of that. I mean, you've just gone through a lot of these startup processes, and how do you see it? And is there any advice that you can give to our audience?
Honestly, it's not easy. It's time consuming. The system is extremely slow. There could be, you need to tip certain locations. Corruption is still part of the gig, unfortunately. Product supply is a problem. There's scarcity of supply in terms of ingredients, but also in terms of equipment. One, you don't have the choice. Foreign currency is a problem. So products can vary. There's from day to day, prices can increase drastically. So the way you plan needs to adapt as well. It's not just about planning ahead what you're doing, but also once you plan, buying the products so that they don't increase in price. Basically, restructuring how you invest in order to not be a victim of this fluctuation and depreciation of inflation, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. And maybe just one last quick one. Maybe Addis, there's one for you here, which is the forex challenge. I think you already mentioned. We already mentioned in the forum a little bit. I think Greg was able to invest, get money out. How do you see, what's the future of the forex challenge? So how do you see the currency issue going forward? Your best guess, knowing that you know everybody, we'll hold you to it.
No, I mean, I think sooner or later that question will cease to exist. I think the fact that the economy is growing at a pace that it is will obviously have forex challenges. I think we're seeing a lot more major exportable commodities coming to fruition. Gold has now become our biggest export. We're seeing the natural gas production in Eastern Ethiopia about to start commencement of exports. I think once those projects are in the pipeline and start making the forex that they will, I think the issue will cease to be a major issue as we have now. I think we have about, I would say about 48 months in regards to this critical forex situation that we're in. We've been here before, and I don't think it's been as bad as it is now. I sit on the board of Dangote, and I know how much build that we're sitting on. Greg, I'm sure, has other investments that they would love to take out in forex, and there's a lot of foreign investors that feeling similar. But I think for a lot of the investors, and Greg included, you put this sort of questions into play. For Philippe and them, I'm sure when they put in $8 billion, that question is always top of mind. But we all know that it's not going to be a forever thing. I think if you look at the sheer power of the Ethiopian diaspora and how much remittance, if it does start coming in through legal channels, and when we see the black exchange rate coming down to a level where it's manageable, I think for a vast majority of the diaspora that would be able to send their money home directly through the national bank and through the banking system, I think you will see some of the forex issues disappearing. So I have a lot of faith. I'm sure with Philippe and their M-Pesa machine, you'll see a lot of payments and so forth coming in from the diaspora directly into folks' account and so forth. So for me, I mean, like I said, not everything is perfect. Not with forex, not with the bureaucracy, not with not with operations on the ground, and that's the reason why there is an opportunity. That's why we're sitting here talking to people about investing in Ethiopia. It is literally an opportunity. Everything that Yohanis was talking about in terms of challenge, for me as a business person, I'm thinking that's an opportunity. He needs a product. He needs a supply, and he needs a consistent supply of certain ingredients. That's an opportunity. That's the way we look at it. We invested in a socks factory up north last year, and most people ask me, that's not such a sexy investment. Fintech and so forth is sexy. I'm like 100 million people socks. Come on, it makes sense. You can't go wrong. So those are the it's just the the realistic thing is there is a challenge. Yohanis said it, Greg said it, we all know it. We're here on the ground. We face it on a daily basis. Every day is a different challenge, and every day is a different sort of opportunity. That's the way I look at it. And like I said before, if it was easy, everybody would be here. And the fact that everybody's not here gives us, an opportunity that most people have, not looked at.
Yeah. Wonderful. I think those were wonderful last words. Thank you, gentlemen. We are out of time. This was a great panel, great discussion. I know there are a number of other Q&As out there. I do apologize. And do get in touch with the panelists. As I said, at the end of this conference, we'll have the contact details. And for the moment, thank you very much, Philippe, Addis, Greg, Yohanis, and over back to you, Naya.